said meatball?
Yeah, he said he had big meatball sub for supper.
What new place?
Oh.
New place, what do you call it?
Well, it wasn't a new place. It's 𝕻𝖎𝖎𝖎𝖓𝖌 sub.
Joe. Oh, big one.
Well, we're live now.
What's that?
We're live. Just...
Oh, that's all right. Nobody's here yet. We don't really start with anything special anyway. We've got to come up with an opening because we can pre-program an opening now.
Yeah. I don't know, maybe I should look into that while I have time off.
Oh crap! Hold on. Let me go get a palette.
Oh, a palette. Oh. Yeah, my son was painting something the other day, and he decided to use his school planner as his palette. And I was like, why don't you just get a paper plate? He's like, well, I don't use the school planner. I'm like, yeah, but it's soaking into the school planner. The paper plate's got a little bit of wax on it.
Just so that you know, I do have actual palettes.
Yeah.
And I have a palette pad.
I've used paper plates before, many a time.
That's 3. And I have more. My watercolor sets have palettes built into them as well. Of course, I'm not using watercolors. But yeah. So I was going to tell you, I know of at least one fantasy painter that uses CD covers. Uses old CD covers. Like if they break, he just recycles the tops or the bottoms of the covers, whichever they may be, to have a flat place to mix his paint. I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah, that would work.
And especially like if what I'm doing is right now, I could use a small paper plate if I had one because I don't really need this big one for this effect. Because I'm just doing the underpainting today. I figured that'd probably be best. It's been kind of a hectic day around here. And since I tend to noodle around with tonals anyway, I thought, and you know, I don't actually have to, just so that everyone watching knows that you don't have to do an underpainting. Especially if you're using watercolor paper and acrylics.
Wait, so if you don't do an underpainting, does that mean your painting is going Command F?
I don't think so. I guess it depends on whether it's a male painting or a female painting, because female paintings can't go commando. They can just be taco stand. They go conscientious objector.
Terrible.
You know, I wish somebody would show up and just bitch about this. You know what I mean? Like, if you got a problem, show up and just bitch about it, because that would be funny as hell for me.
Oh, goodness.
All right.
I'm so glad when it tells me my mic is muted because I muted it because I was coughing. Yes.
Right?
Thank you.
So, I'm drinking 0 sugar and W root beer.
I'm sorry.
Well, it was always in the house. I just had that discussion. Well, Normally, for me, root beer and Whately, any kind of soda is a rarity. Okay, so what I was just talking about with her, I don't know if I think that before went live was whether or not we want to basically make her semi-transparent, like going from transparent to non-transparent, I guess. What I'm doing first, though, is putting a coat of acrylic on, because it will dry fairly fast, so that everything is covered. And I know you know this, it's for those that don't realize what the hell I'm doing. So once there's a coating on there, the pencil's pretty much sealed in.
Oh, I'm just thinking. You're like, all right, tonight we're going to do the underpaint. So you paint that on real fast. All right, we're done. And,
yeah, that's not the underpainting. That's the coating, the undercoating of the underpainting. The underpainting is a value painting. So,
I just thought it
for
was
those
funny.
that don't know, I know you know, but for those that don't know, it's making sure that I get the tones that I want in here. I did a lot of that with the pencil, but not all of it. And there's things that are subject to change, which is one of the things I was talking to you about, was whether or not I want to make it more like Darth Vader's face in the Star Wars poster, so that they can see stars and stuff through it. But in this case, it wouldn't be stars; it would be like a cavern wall or stalactites, and probably not stalagmites because we ain't gonna see the floor. But so yeah, I guess that's my opinion. I was thinking that would look really cool. But it does take it away from what we were talking about, the original inspiration being.
I say go with what you want to go with.
Well, I normally would do that very thing, but when I'm working on somebody's commission and they want it to be a certain way, right?
Oh.
I try to accommodate that, because that's the point of a commission. Like, I know you didn't strictly say it has to be this or has to be that, and then we were talking, it's inspired by a couple of things that you like, right?
Right.
It was originally inspired, as far as positioning goes, or composition goes, by the Great Gatsby cover, but we pointed out similarities with the original Star Wars poster, and it seemed like you like that as well.
Yeah.
So, but that's one of the differences, because it's a very deep tonal blue that's going on back behind the Great Gatsby cover. And Star Wars, you can see stars going through it, sometimes spaceships going through the helmet, depending on the poster. But I always liked that, and I actually searched and searched and searched for the actual term for that. And I never really did. I never really did find an actual term for it. And the closest I can find was it's a montage. Well, a montage or a collage or any of that stuff, that doesn't tell me that there's one big face that you could see through. Like, so I don't know if there's an actual term for that I didn't find, but I looked for a long time and did not find one. But that's always been something that I've loved as well. So that's the thing that I want to kind of focus with, on in this is bringing or leading enough, or if we want to put, I don't know, night sky, or I just think the whole stalactite, stalagmite, well, stalactite because they're hanging from the ceiling, like to show a little bit of that going on between there, so that she's a ghost, even though they're also ghosts for her, right?
Okay.
Well, because she's the seer. And all of this came up as because I wanted to fix this jawline because it went this way and it should have gone that way. And then I was thinking, well, what if it just fades off? Like, you don't have an ending to it. You don't have a definitive edge to it. And then I thought about the whole Star Wars poster idea, which I'm pretty sure that's the 𝕻𝖎𝖎𝖓𝖙 brothers that actually came up with that. And if you don't know the 𝕻𝖎𝖎𝖓𝖙 brothers' work, they did a lot of Lord of the Rings work, did a lot of really gorgeous fantasy work in the early days, and they're twins. And I want to say Tim died, and Greg right now is in the hospital, so kind of prayers for Greg. He is a great inspiration to a lot of artists, and he and his wife started kind of an online art gallery to help out other artists, to kind of help their work sell. So he's really a huge presence in the art community and an inspiration for many, many people. You can look up his Lord of the Rings work, and that would be great to show some of if you want to.
Are you telling me to look up Lord of the Rings work from him now?
You can. Anything, Greg Hildebrandt that's safe for work. He's got a whole series painted on black paper, like they're basically black and white paintings of kind of risque noir type imagery, and they're really cool, but they probably would get us struck. Like, I hate that idea because I really love his artwork, and I really love artwork in general being able to be displayed as what it is. But other people do not agree with my opinion. What is the pity? Actually, any of the brothers Hildebrandt's work is great, but Greg is the one who has been. I think Tim is passed on for quite a while now, but they used to paint as a team, and that was really cool too.
Well, a lot of these Hildebrandt things have your cold and hot tones.
Oh yeah, they definitely do have hot and cold colors, or warm and cool color schemes, as they call it.
Oh, I mean, not all of them, but yeah, he does like to do it.
So yeah, some of them you'll see, like there's a famous unicorn painting of theirs that it's pretty much daylight, very bright. I don't think there's much for cool. Maybe there is in like the flowers and stuff in the field, but sky.
Well, at least now I know. I didn't know that was the guy's name.
What?
Well, I mean, there's definitely like the Star Wars picture with Luke holding the
lightsaber up?
Darth Vader's in the background, and the
Yep.
X-wings don't really look like X-wings, but
Well, that was actually, Luke doesn't really look like Luke, but
yeah.
he was thinking that cover before they actually had that all set. He was working from Ralph McQuarrie's drawings, I think. Okay, we'll let that settle, and I'll get a different brush.
Okay.
See, this would be a good place for hair dryer. Let me see the usual suspects. I'm gonna have to buy some new brushes. I'm gonna have to make some money to buy some new brushes.
By the way, I think your cousin accepted a friend request from me.
Which cousin?
Joe.
Okay.
Well, it's kind of like, who the hell is this?
You were?
Yeah, because it came on my phone that somebody accepted. It wasn't Joe. Like, it wasn't the name Joe. It wasn't until I looked at the picture that I was like, oh, okay.
Was it like HMMM?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Joe.
Yeah. But
Kesley. Well, that's because he he's ditched Facebook a number of times, and that's his new account. So nobody knows it.
So it's a secret.
Now everyone that's watching this knows. I feel like I'm still missing a brush. I guess I can work with what I got.
Oh, you missed it, Jay. Well, welcome to the Gored pub.
Oh, what did he miss?
The revelation of Joe's secret identity.
Yeah. It wouldn't mean anything to you unless you were a long-standing fan anyway.
Yeah, that goes back.
What's that?
That goes back a while.
Yeah, Joe hasn't been here in a while. Either Joe hasn't been here in a while. Did you ever show that picture? The
No.
Star Wars picture?
No, I did not. I wasn't sure if I was allowed to. Hold on.
You wasn't sure what?
Well, I don't know. I mean, last time you tried to play a video, you got struck. So then I was like,
Oh, well, playing a video and crediting it,
So I was
crediting a
I'd
piece of
like to-
artwork, we're allowed to share 10% of copyrighted work anyway, legally.
all right,
So,
the Star Wars one.
But really, it's not about, like, we're not showing even close to that amount of his work, but we're kind of pushing his work as well. Because I'm sure that they could, with him in the hospital, I'm sure that he and his wife could definitely use as many people buying prints as they can get. And it's a worthy enough cause.
I'm having a hard time. I hope that's the right one. Hey, it's the right one. Look at that. Look at that bad boy.
Yeah, so I gotta enlarge my screen because that's part of the inspiration for the face being the way it is in the back. Now, you see how you see the stars through there that I was talking about? You see the ships going through there?
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about doing with her, whether or not it be the stars or stalactites and stuff. And stalactites is not going to be definitely not going to be a copy of anything, but.
Right, but it's okay to say this is an inspiration piece.
Yeah, definitely. That and The Great Gatsby, both of them are inspiration pieces, and I'm not so sure that wasn't inspired partially by The Great Gatsby piece as well. We'd have to ask Greg because Tim's not around, I think.
Oh wow. That R2D2 is color correct.
What's that?
Oh, I'm just looking at some of the finer, like just the R2D2 on my big screen looks Like it might be green instead of blue.
I don't know. I don't know about that. But the C3PO looks a little bit more green than yellow.
Yeah.
But that could be just the blue of your screen too.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that's pretty incredible work for not knowing who the stars were going to be at the time. You didn't know who was starring in it. You didn't have pictures of them. You know?
Yeah.
You had probably a picture of the helmet because they had gone through so many changes on that helmet.
And back.
Jay still here? What's he doing?
Huh?
So is Jay still here? What's he up to? I guess that's two questions at the same time for him. I like how that has a soundtrack feel to it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. It kind of sounds a little bit like Planet of the Apes General Hospital.
Okay.
Like a stunning revelation, and I guess now you have to get specific on which Planet of the Apes.
It's true.
So I have the soundtrack to the Tim Burton one, and that's really the only good thing about that. Well, I guess that's not true. I did like Tim Roth, although they should have used camera magic and made him bigger. And I also liked Michael Clark Duncan.
Okay.
You've seen that one, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So you know who I'm talking about as far as role-wise, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I kind of think that Mark Wahlberg was a distraction from the film. Or maybe better put, that I didn't feel his part was like he didn't claim that role for himself. It didn't like make it his own. Like I kind of feel that way about both Michael Clark Duncan and drawing blanks right now.
I just feel like Tim Burton
No,
made the
Tim.
movie look more modern, but
Yeah,
that's about all he did. I mean, the story, the original movie kind of hinged on that ending, and Tim Burton swung for that ending, but I think missed.
yeah. I think he actually, if you watch that ending and you watch the ending of I think it was the very last of the original series.
Yeah,
That's actually what it felt like they found. Like it wasn't the Statue of Liberty at the end and showing that the world was destroyed. It was DC or whatever. So it kind of felt like it mashed all the movies into one attempt. And so if you take Tim, why the name's not coming to me today. Roth. Take Tim Roth, Michael Clark Duncan out, and Helena Bonham Carter out, which she did that role well too, but she really does quirky roles well. If you take them out, it really kind of feels like it's a short made-for-TV movie. The sets weren't very extravagant. It was like there only one set that they just played around. It did not feel like that whole epic original Charlton Heston movie feel, because it felt like you had different realms that you were going into, and Tim Burton's felt like there was only really just a couple of sets. Like the 𝕻𝖎𝖎𝖎𝖏 Village was just like one small set that you showed them at different angles. I liked the newer versions much better. I haven't seen Kingdom yet, which I still want to see. But I don't think James Franco was the special one there. I think Jonathan Lithgow gave an amazing performance. And obviously Andy Serkis. I think Andy Serkis has done well a lot of times that he hasn't gotten credit for as well. Watched Despicable Me 4 last night.
can't say I've seen that one.
Kind of makes me not want to say anything about it to see what, if you watch it, what your opinion is. But
Well, the odds of me watching that movie are kind of small.
I think it was worth watching. It's rather long, but I also think it kind of outlines a lot of the problem that's going on in, well, I guess Hollywood in general, but it's like a almost or just over 2 hour movie or something like that, but you don't really see what the plot is until the first hour into it. It kind of dances around trying to make more jokes, I think, than anything else for the first part. I mean, it does introduce the bad guy right off, but it doesn't, introduce the bad guy's plan until very much later in the movie. So you don't really know what the movie's about, aside from there's somebody that doesn't like Gru after Gru. Then there's this whole thing with they go into protective custody, I guess you could say. And the next door neighbor girl figures out who he is or used to be and blackmails him, and it's like a badass girl, you know what I mean, thing.
Okay.
She wants to be a villain. There's just the plot's weak and a lot of the writing is weak. There are things that happen that the answers to you never actually see, and I can't really talk about it without being spoilers. So
Sorry.
I think you get some laughs out of it. Definitely, there is the minion aspect of it. They do the Minions version of kind of the Fantastic Four with the Hulk instead of with a cone head that flies and the Hulk and Ben Grimm, and there's no like Invisible Woman, and that's funny because the Minions never really get it right, but it's just more. I don't know, they're more there for gags to fill up a lot of the time. And I kind of don't mind that because I watch those movies for the gags that don't have political speak in them. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Because unfortunately, the other parts do. I mean, it's there. It's just not as prevalent as some other stuff. But overall, it's a pretty fun outing. I think I can't even remember the distinction between a lot of them, so I can't tell you what I'd rank it in the others, but it was definitely more of a kids movie than they've been lately, I guess is what I'm trying to say. They haven't gotten completely back to their just have fun roots yet, but they're a lot closer. At least in that movie anyway. Good news, I guess.
Okay.
There was a lot of fun, silly shit. Nothing like, Happy in Stitches, but comedy seldom get more than a chuckle out of me anyway. You got a couple of chuckles out of me. Even if they were predictable,
Yeah.
like you see something and you're like, oh, I know what's going to happen. And it happens, but it still happens in such a way that works anyway. Did you ever like the Brian Jacques books?
I'm gonna have to say no.
Did you read them?
That's why I'm saying no.
Okay, well, there's a difference between liking them and not liking them and not having read them.
Yeah, but you said, did I like them? And I said no, because I don't. Because I don't know them.
But you don't like them because you have no idea.
I do not have a...
So they're the
Redwall series?
Yeah, the Redwall series.
Oh. Yeah, I was never a fan of that. Like, I wanted to be, like I should have been, and it was one of those things where on paper, I'm like, yeah, this is a book I should like, and then I was like, nah, I don't really like it.
Well, I do. I like them. I think they're fun. But
well, that's good.
They're doses. It's one of those things, like I wouldn't read them all the time. What makes them hard is because he writes phonetically. Like the dialogue and the accents, sometimes he writes them so phonetically you really have a hard time knowing what the hell he's saying. And it's not great prose, but it's not meant to be. It's meant to be like telling a kid a story, so.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what I like about it. But anyway, so a lot of this stuff that you're writing, like this,
yeah,
just kind of feel like a more grown-up version of the same thing. Not the same thing, but
I get what you're saying.
The familiarity of it, like this is a Knoll, it's not Lord Brocktree or whatever, but. I think it might be a strategy to reach for his audience. Because he left a void. And even though it's not the same thing, it's kind of a familiar path.
Okay.
It's basically, I mean, most of them, you're not talking about any humans. And I'm not saying that to your detriment or whatever. I'm just saying because you're not really talking about humans and your characters are set up, even though they're not real animals, they're fantasy animals or fantasy races. They're basically set up like Brian Jacques did with the animals. Because no animal wears armor and, has battle strategies or whatever anyway. So that's the human aspect of it. But I'm sure there's a whole audience of adventurers looking for something that's even similar. That's like Xanth.
Yeah.
People either love or hate Xanth. Well, if you don't have a sense of humor about about your fantasy, you're gonna hate Flanders. Because that's the whole thing that it is built on, is a sense of humor.
Well, I know for the novel with Gored and 𝕮𝖎𝖎𝖎𝖏, it's for me at least trying to recreate the feel for the type of fantasy. Like I read The Sword of Shannara, didn't like it as much as Elfstones of Shannara was a much better book.
That's funny because that's the first one I read. I thought that was the first one.
And it's the better of the two.
Yeah.
But I mean, I was enthralled with that series. I was enthralled with the original Dragonlance books. So it's kind of the fantasy I want, I suppose.
It's funny because like where I started with fantasy was the Hobbit cartoon.
Well, yeah, that too.
And then Fire and Ice. That was Frank Frazetta. Before I even knew who Frank Frazetta was. Like my aunt did, actually, Joe's mom. And she introduced me to him. And then The Last Unicorn. Those were all cartoon movies around that same time. Then I branched off more into, well, Tarzan's really not fantasy, but it kind of is when you think about how realistic it's not.
Right.
And in Tarzan, like if you read the original Tarzan Lord of the Apes, he speaks in apes language. They have a language that they're speaking, and it's much like somebody writing about someone outside of their own country and saying he said this instead of trying to make a sound for it. But yeah, then I really went Conan's direction, and it's really interesting that Robert E. Howard was actually fantasy before Tolkien. He was a couple of years ahead of Tolkien, or like 1 year or a couple of months. It's really close, but he was actually ahead. He had different purposes in mind. I think Tolkien said that he was trying to create a history for Britain, a mythology for Britain, and much of Robert E. Howard's stuff was trying to play around in history. Like a lot of his stuff was either set in history or what they knew or thought they knew scientifically about historical ruins and stuff like that at the time. And he got a lot of information for being in a small town in Texas in the 20s. But yeah, I went that direction, and like Robert Jordan and the Tor fantasies got me into Conan, and then I read the Robert E. Howard versions. But that's the direction that I went getting into fantasy. And then Robert Jordan had written Conan, so when he started his Wheel of Time, I was already a fan of his work from Conan. Of course, I was much younger and had different tastes and less knowledge about writing, which I kind of regret having some of the knowledge, or I regret some having as much knowledge as I do now, because I can't enjoy books like I used to enjoy before I had that knowledge. If that makes sense.
I think so. That's like, The Hobbit was one of the ones, like I saw the cartoon, fell in love with that. Saw the cartoon for Lord of the Rings too. Didn't like it as much, but I still liked it. And
well, two of them were like The Hobbit, and the one in the middle just was rotoscopy. And that was, I didn't like that as much when they did the Two Towers.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't, or wait, was it the Fellowship of the Ring? One of them, what they did was had actors perform in a basic studio, and they just traced those actors onto cells. And that was actually the cartooning of it. And that's what Ralph Bakshi actually became known for, and that's called rotoscopy.
Well,
and that's the way they filmed Fire and Ice as well, but Fire and Ice, Frank Frazetta was there, literally doing the stunts the way he wanted them. So that's pretty incredible when you see it. I loved in the Fire and Ice version of the rotoscopy, you saw muscles as they were being used. So like if he was swinging an axe, you'd see Darkwolf's chest ripple, but you wouldn't see it ripple with muscles until it was being used.
Okay.
It didn't have the same flavor and feel as the other Rankin and Bass, The Hobbit, and the Return of the King. Well, I think the Two Towers was the one that was like The Hobbit, and Fellowship of the Ring was the one that was all rotoscopy.
I remember my 5th grade teacher taught The Hobbit to his reading class, which I was not in. And when I found out they were getting to read The Hobbit, I was kind of upset because I had already read The Hobbit and I loved it.
Yeah.
And later on, when I went back, I was in college, I read The Hobbit again, and I really did not have the same appreciation for it. I guess my taste had matured, and the spectacle was not enough to hide some of the massive story errors, like the fact that in The Hobbit, it's just one Deus Ex Machina after another, and that bothers me. It's like he could put people into situations, but he had a hard time getting them out. It's never really, I mean, here we have the big climactic battle, and we're going to knock out the POV character, so we don't have to, write about it. It's just crazy.
I don't think I see it the same way as you did, but I've read it since I was a child, since I read it first when I was a child as well. The only real problems that I had with it were there were some anachronisms in it. Like when the trolls, when he first goes around the trolls and he's supposed to steal something from the trolls before he gets sting and all that.
Yeah.
They pick him up and punch him like a football. You know, that was kind of off-putting a little bit. I'm like, wait a minute, they did what? There was no football. So we weren't playing football. And then, you know, like when I first read it, I didn't really even know that there was a difference in English football and American football because I was young. But there was a little bit of the whole Gandalf just happening to go away right before shit went down. But I didn't think of that as Deus Ex Machina. I thought that was actually the opposite way around. Like,
how do they get out of the trees? The eagles show up. Oh, okay.
Well,
how do they escape the goblins? Tom Bombadil shows up. Yeah, it's
not really. Like, there's the ring. There's a whole bunch of things that are involved in that you're skipping over to simplify that. But, you know, like, I don't want to get into a big argument over that. I'm just saying that I didn't see it the same way as you did, and I understand some of it is kind of whatever, that's kind of bull, but it's also meant to be myth. So, I mean, how are you going to tear down a myth and say that's not believable? It's a fucking myth. Not supposed to be believable, really.
Because
every time Gandalf could have stayed and saved the day, he just happened to have an important business to the south.
Oh yeah.
And that was my annoyance, which was kind of the opposite way around. It was like, oh, Gandalf's not going to save them because they weren't meant to be saved by Gandalf. And I thought that, like, even over the movie, Bilbo was a lot more proactive in the book. He made decisions. Like, he didn't necessarily want to make decisions, but he had to, and he did. He didn't walk away. He had plenty of chances to walk away, plenty of chances not to do it, but he did anyway. That was one of the things that drove me crazy about the movie, is like that he was like, everything happened, and it was Deus Ex Machina big time in the movie. I didn't feel it so much in the book as the movie. Of course, there are instances, but those instances were acceptable, like I said, because I knew it wasn't supposed to be factual. It was fantasy anyway. I think a lot of the stuff wasn't as well thought out as he would have liked it to have been until it went down on paper. And back in those days, couldn't just go down on paper and you leave it alone. You'd have to rewrite the whole thing. So I can understand the reluctance to do that as well. I know he liked Tom Bombadil, and he wanted to have Tom Bombadil as a stronger part. He fought for making an entire book about Tom Bombadil in that universe, but his publisher didn't like it and didn't do it until after like the publisher died or something like that. But that was it. It was like Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, and Tom Bombadil's adventures. I don't know. I do know that it doesn't matter like what you or I think when it comes to what Tolkien wrote. It matters what Tolkien wanted or what he thought he wanted or whatever. I can't fault him. I liked it. I liked it as a book, liked it as a movie. I've liked it as a book several times. I see a lot of escapes that are engineered by Bilbo. And I do see some that are well, even the Eagles, that wasn't just they happened by.
Okay.
They didn't just happen by. It was fucking Gandalf had sent a message to him.
Yep.
And we don't need to know everything that Gandalf knows. Whether the King of the Eagles owes him a favor or whatever. Like, I'm not really trying to fight over it or whatever. Just saying that I guess it's a different point of view. Like I see it differently than you do. Even though I do see, like looking back, I do see a lot of it that's crap. Just as much as having the thresh talk, right? Or is it the swallow?
I don't know. It's one of them. Some bird.
Yeah. Now he knew that he was overstepping his bounds in some places because he was going from some mythologies, like that whole thing where the talking to the birds was from Sigurd and the Dragon, and that was Norse. And basically, that's Sigurd dug a hole and lured the dragon out over the path on the hole that he was in and just killed him from underside. But he was cooking the dragon's heart and burnt his finger and sucked on his thumb, and from there he could speak to ravens or whatever the birds were. So, I mean, that's where he took that from. That's just like Gandalf the Grey is basically Odin. He's the same hat as Odin. He has the same. The Grey is Odin. The Great Wanderer, that was all Odin. And Tolkien traveled around with an Oxford English dictionary, learning histories of different people and legends of different people that he kind of compiled on his own to get there. So I guess that's why it's easier for me to buy a lot of that stuff, because I know what I'm reading is not supposed to be like it's the fact behind the fiction or anything. It's supposed to be mythology for England. It's weird that you're talking about books that you read when you were a kid, and I was not a kid. Sometimes that you wouldn't have seen or heard some stuff because you're young. A bigger round. Let's see how far we get with this.
Okay.
Well, what I'm trying to do is the bigger face, so that smaller brush will take me forever to get stuff done that could be like pretty quick. Can't see that because of the station identification. It's kind of really what it is. Station identification.
I can always turn it off if you want me to.
Well, doesn't really matter. It's just a matter of whether or not. I don't think that turning it off would have mattered at that point. It was just too high. But yeah, I mean, whatever. You've got the controls to fix all that stuff, so I don't have to while I'm doing this.
Well, I can see what you're doing. I can see the edge of your canvas.
Yeah, I just folded it down.
Oh, okay. Just
It
saying,
was
so I
up,
don't-
it was up here, and I was painting the eye, and I was like, "Oh, you guys can't see what I'm doing," so I pulled it down. I have a hard time knowing how far I can go up or down, especially when I'm not looking at the video.
Well, you might try getting a piece of colored tape, just putting it on your desk as to kind of where the shot is.
Yeah, except for it changes. It changes where I put the clipboard, where I have to move it to be able to get access to it. If I'm turning it, there's a lot of factors to it.
Okay.
There is paint marks on my desk from where I did, and then like how close or far away the camera's set. Right.
Right.
So I wanted to get close enough so that people can see actually what I'm doing, but I guess it's not really as important. I don't know. I don't know. I'll shut up before I get myself in some kind of trouble. as is my tendency. didn't want people to think I had finesse.
Okay.
Guess the point to that was that not everybody should be worried about the tiny finessing as much as I can really paint over anything if I don't like it. But this is a tonal painting, and the point is to get the tones right, not to get the details right. I wanted to be recognizable from what's going on. See, it's a lot clearer now than when I first, put it on the canvas. Even when I first drew it, you didn't, know particularly what the order was going to be or how it was going to affect things. I don't like people to be disheartened to think that they've got to do, they have to do it one way or they have to do what they saw, because that's not really true at all. You have to do whatever it takes to achieve the look that you're trying to get. That's it. And a lot of techniques were invented by people not being able to, or aping somebody else's technique. I know at least one friend that created a particular style of doing marble on accident because he dropped something on a painting that he was trying to rush to get done. But he created a technique to get a texture that he wasn't able to do before, and an original one at that. What's that?
What's the technique?
I don't know. He didn't tell me. He just told me how he got that technique. I mean, I can see his marble technique, and it's a really cool look. I don't know if I would try to use that look, but I'm sure it got him a lot of work, because that's the way he mentioned it, is that it was, he developed his signature style of that on accident or whatever. I think I'm going to let that dry for a second.
Okay.
Other soda. I'll be right back.
That's not fair. I was going to get a soda.
Yeah, we don't have to go as far as you.
That's true, you don't. I have to run all the way downstairs and then back upstairs and hope I can breathe.
I already have one. During the time that we were talking. Ooh. So are you liking the look of it? Because this is your commission, so.
Yeah. If I had any problems, I think I should have probably spoken up long before now.
Well, that or you could be going, trust the process.
You gotta love trust the process.
I kind of hate the phrasing, but I do love the I do love the sentiment. I don't think it's the process that rules what I'm doing. I think
whatever.
I think it's the intent. But you don't know what the intent is. You know what I mean? Like, you can't see what the intent is. I know what the intent is. I know what's right and what's wrong about this.
Okay. Hi, Allison.
Oh, hi, Allison. Pardon me.
That was a pleasant little hello.
Well, whatever. She's not a stranger now, so she's stream family, kinda, right?
I guess.
She knows. She knows. It's root beer. I don't generally drink root beer. That's kind of part of the reason. Really?
I'm just not a fan of root beer.
Well, I don't mind root beer. Like I said, it's a once in a while thing, but like I don't drink it very often because it really makes me gassy. At my age, that hurts.
For me, it's just, I mean, I have to be, it's got to be just the right moment for me to want root beer.
Well, you did say you didn't like it. So,
Yeah. Well, I mean,
covered it.
I've drank it willingly before. It's kind of, it's rare.
I want to set some of this contrast. I think she literally just stops in to say hi, and that's it.
Whatever. It's interaction. It helps.
Maybe it's the burp that drove her away.
Could be.
She really just shows for you.
Oh, okay.
Next smaller one on the details list. I could let some of this dry. What color are her eyes?
Green.
It will be less hectic.
What?
Those eyelashes will be less hectic
Okay.
in the end, but I had to get them in because it was over. I didn't call it an overspray because there was no spray, but the brush stopped. And it didn't. Good thing I'm not worried about how pristine this desk stays.
It's only furniture.
Well, it's only my drawing table, so it's made for drawing and painting.
There you go.
It's gonna look like a well-loved easel. And I thought I put too much brown on there at the beginning. Can you hear Eli snoring?
Not over the son of my wife. No.
Oh yeah. He's on logs.
Well, I would make fun of my wife for going to bed before 8 o'clock. Except for I was napping until after 6. So,
I'm not making fun of him going to bed. Like I'm glad he went to bed because he was a cranky little shit. And he probably needs his sleep and his condition. He hasn't been taking care of his condition, and it was evident tonight. So some of the symptoms popped back up. So I'm glad he's getting rest. Like I don't know if it sounded not like that, but he should be getting rest in his bedroom, not snoring 10 feet away from me on the couch. Because when I wake him up to move him so I can put this stuff back, he's going to be super cranky all over again. So for those first-timers out there, probably your best bet's not going to be trying to do a big face. Pick something small or work on something on the smaller size. Bigger faces and bigger things will be a little bit more difficult to get the blends and stuff on.
okay, now I hear it.
Yeah, right. Well, at least we know his breather's working.
Yeah. One of my students was sick for a few days right before break. I think she ended up with like pneumonia or something.
Wow.
And I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, oh yeah, I have a scratchy throat. Oh wait, so did she. Oh hey, I'm coughing just because it feels like I have something in my throat. Oh hey, that's what she was doing. Oh great. I can have a nice slow decline all through break and then come back sick. It'll be great.
Test your sick days.
Oh man, because one of my children has therapy every 2 weeks. I end up having to take a day off every 2 weeks, and whatever. I mean, I got the sick days for it, but it's one of those things where I don't like having to do it, just because I don't like being gone from my classroom. But after last year, I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to make my family work and suffer for the benefit of other people when they're not willing to do the same for me. So it's part of the contract for a reason. I'm gonna use it the way it's written. And if they don't like it, they can rearrange they can change the contract, I guess.
Not right now, though.
Well, yeah, you're right. Not right now. You're stuck for at least another, I think, 2 years now.
That's one of those things that ends up in your favor.
Well, what I always like is that
Because there's a bunch of stuff that's always in your favor when you work for something like that.
yeah. But they write these things into the contract that you have these sick days, and they write in that they carry over. They write in all this stuff, but then they get pissed when you exercise it. It's just like, well, then why'd you put it in there?
Yeah, because they were obligated to put it in there, right?
Yeah, I know. And they try to, which to me, I'm like, if you have an employer that wants to do that kind of crap, that's cool, but that tells you the employer isn't really on the up and up.
It tells you everything that you need to know about that employer, really.
Yeah.
There's that greeting again.
Yep.
For those that missed it the first time, I don't want them to feel left out.
I don't know if anyone missed it.
Well, they're getting now.
All right. I was trying to hold out to 11, but I can't. I'm going to be right back. I'm back.
Welcome back.
Yeah, I took a
You
breathing
can do that
treatment
right away.
before this stream. Like I was watching the clock because I finished it around 8. I don't normally take breathing treatments anymore. It's rare when I have to. I'm going to have to take another one when we get off stream. Ugh. I mean, at least the breathing treatments work. They should last longer than 3 hours. Ugh. Especially when all I'm doing is sitting around. I mean, don't get me wrong. Your artwork is fascinating and wonderful. It's not really enough to cause me to lose my breath.
Thanks. I don't think I'll get that wrong. It's not breathtaking. It could be better.
No, I'd rather not breathe. I guess I'd rather breathe. It's kind of one of my favorite activities. I tend to do it all the time.
Well, people that hang out with me tend to not want to anymore.
Well, see, I'd rather continue to do so. So breathing is kind of important.
Well, on the bright side, I can't hear him snoring. I'm going through a lot of paint on this one.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I've actually put more on the plate for this one so far than I did the underpainting of Conan. Actually, the underpainting of pretty much anyone else. Well, pretty much. Like, not Cthulhu and, some of the major size ones. Cthulhu is like 2 foot wide, so that's a lot bigger than this. Ironically, I don't think this is going to be the darkest stuff on here. Even though it's going to be the darkest stuff on the underpainting. But I think on the actual painting, what I'm painting right now, it's going to be purple.
Okay.
Well, there's a couple of reasons for that. Number one is her eyes are green, so one eye is going to be very crystal clear green. But because she's pale and brown, purple is really a color associated with brown. So a pale brown would be like violet or very, very pale purple, right? At least the way that they're often represented.
Yeah,
And we want it to be recognizably what she is, even though.
Right. And that was one of the things, like, I haven't read all of the, whatever the 𝕮𝖎
Yeah.
are, but I've read several of them, including, I believe, the original trilogy that he shows up in, including his own trilogy, his original trilogy that he of his own. I've read some.
Sojourn in Exile.
Yeah, and having a character that's recognizably drow without making it derivative of that work, I think is kind of hard.
Right.
And you're right. You need to make it recognizable, but you also need to make it your own.
Yeah, so, I mean, she's obviously not the normal drow colors because she's albino.
Right.
So I do have a little bit of playroom in there. I just wanted to play with the purples because that's familiar. Yeah. And because, like you said, her eyes are green and that's an opposite, that any complementary color is usually opposite. So if I make her eye green, and everything else just values of purple. It also distinguishes her a little bit. So I can do like her in purple, her eye in green, and then maybe some of this, my favorite green back in here or something. You know what I mean? So it still has that kind of contrast. And then as we come down, we can do some of the colds and hots. If it's not too much, that's really the trick, is whether it's going to be too much.
Jay said, I've only ever seen Drow depicted in the front of 𝕻𝖎𝖎𝖎𝖓 books.
Yeah, that's the Dritz books we're talking about.
Yep.
That's
his character.
I have actually, if you look at the old Dungeons and Dragons books, 𝕻𝖎𝖎𝖎𝖓 and what's his name? There was the first drow that you see in the Dungeons and Dragons books. Oh, it's gonna drive me nuts. He's the same guy that's famous for the big dragon that they did on Dungeons and Dragons. He did a drow first, and I don't think it was supposed to be Dritz, but he has a head plate, like just a forehead plate.
Okay. Jay said sometimes a dark gray, sometimes a blue for some reason. Yeah, that was one of the things. I mean, I've kept the blue, but it doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think the blue is actually purple most of the time. I've seen it represented. That's a lot of that's Todd Lockwood, because he's done a lot of the Dritz covers, and a lot of them are values of purple. I think, yeah, a more blue purple, the one that I was talking about, the older cover, I think is. But yeah, I mean, we need a dark color, but I don't want him to be black, and I don't want him to be like, he has to be the darkest part because he's the most forward. So that's why I intended to do the purple on her, because it's not as dark, and she's going to be an extreme point of contrast. But I need to tame her down just a little bit, because if he's in the blue round, I already have plans for his fur to have like a backlighting. Then him being very, very dark in shadow and having a rim light, a warm rim light at that, as juxtaposed against light purple and, well, light violet and purple, right? So that should make them all stand out in their own. It's kind of a trick.
Okay.
Well, to try to make it so that the eye is drawn to every part.
Yeah.
Separately for separate reasons. Like, obviously, he's gonna disappear in the mist, and I was thinking I want to maybe do a red backdrop on him, and that would also work well with blending into that purple. Because of the mention that they're from or whatever, it separates it a little bit. So we've got blue, purple, green, red, yellow.
Well, you've yet to say anything where I just think, no. So, I'd say it's good. Have you ever read the glass books of the Dream Eaters?
The what?
The glass books of the Dream Eaters by Gored.
I didn't know. I don't, because I don't know that name.
Oh. There's another. It's a trilogy. That's the first book. And, yeah, it's a really good trilogy. It's steampunk, but it's set in England. Which I actually think, out of all of the only real criticism I have of the series, other than I don't think the ending quite came together like it should have, but I always felt like it was kind of burdened by being set in the real world. Whereas if they had just done a little bit of their own world building, I think it would have been better and easier, to be honest. But overall, I'm impressed by those books, and just kind of wanted to know if you had read those.
I have not.
That's all right. It happens.
Well, yeah.
I don't even know why.
I read in different circles, really.
Yeah.
Like once in a while, we read stuff that crosses over, but
there's a character that's made Card the Cardinal, and it just, like, when I read it, I was like, okay, this guy's trying to make a cool character. You could just tell, like, all right, this is supposed to be a guy I'm supposed to find interesting and stuff, and for the most part, it works. The only thing I did, that character of the Cardinal seems to become less important by the end of it, I guess. And that's kind of where I was like, you kind of got away from the main characters, but overall, it's still a good series.
oh, really? That sucks.
It's just the underpainting.
Yeah, it wasn't. Well, that wasn't the thing that sucked. I mean, that's a small matter.
Okay.
What sucked was that was a hair. So there was a hair in the paint.
Yeah.
Well, I think it was a brush hair. But it pulled out and it left the line that I didn't want to have there. But I had to go back and pull that hair up. Yeah, and when your brushes lose their hair, they don't go bald, they get ruined.
Yeah.
They do nobody any good anymore.
I got that werewolf story under 4,000 words. And then I never really liked the ending. I thought the ending was rushed. And I think a lot of the problems that stem from the ending stem from that being rushed.
Right?
And
I have to end it at this point, so.
yeah.
Honestly, I think some of the earlier stuff, like in the very beginning, can probably be trimmed down if you wanted to.
Oh, I trimmed stuff down. Like, I trimmed it under 4,000, and then I rewrote a section, then I trimmed it back under 4,000, then I wrote a section, the ending of it, and I got to trim it back down. But the solution is more in line with traditional werewolf folklore, while also adhering to the logical aspects and resources of the story. So I think it'll work. I suppose we'll wait till I finish up the rest of it. But yeah, I wanted it to be more like, I don't know.
Because
what I say
better
about the-
resolution, you think?
Well, I mean, it's at some levels I was resisting the use of the word werewolf.
Yeah, but it's a. So the thing is that, and I don't know how you view it, but it's going into a werewolf anthology, so you can't really keep the werewolf aspect of it a secret.
Well,
And it's really hard to believe that nobody thinks, oh, this is a werewolf, when there's animalistic attacks that occur that are way too big to whatever to be human. Yeah.
well, yeah, I think I addressed that too.
Yeah, even if they think it can't be a werewolf, they
Right.
still have to acknowledge that it looks like a werewolf. Because if
Right.
not, the audience thinks it looks like a werewolf. How come I know it looks like a werewolf and nobody else knows it looks like a werewolf?
Right.
So I mean, it's kind
I
of
agree.
hard. I'm trying to approach it like I haven't mentioned werewolf either, but I've given a lot of clues in names, and I'm going to kind of directly approach it, even though I don't know if I'm going to say werewolf outright, but I'm going to imply that somebody knows that there's a werewolf, or believes that there's a werewolf, because that's kind of the whole point of the story. I'm actually teetering back and forth about making it about somebody being gaslit. Even though there being a real werewolf, and there's no hiding the fact that there's a real werewolf, but the person that we think is the werewolf isn't the werewolf, and but he's being made to believe he's a werewolf or something like that. And I'm toying with the idea of the unreliable narrator.
Yeah.
But only secondhand.
Oh, okay.
Like
That's
the narrator is not unreliable, but the person that he gets his information from, or thinks he's getting his information from, may not be strictly reliable. It's not a cheat if the point of view doesn't think,
All right.
Hopefully it's not a cheat. Like, you're not trying to cheat. You were saying something?
Well, staying within that POV was kind of why I was trying to avoid the term werewolf, not because she wouldn't know the term, but because I don't know if he would logically leap to that right away. But especially after she sees it, she should, and she sees it a lot earlier now, although still not as early as I'd like it.
Well, like, I don't think she has to think it's a werewolf, but yeah, I guess kind of. But like, when there's all this crazy talk and there's pictures of things, like, I don't know, I don't want to give away anything, but when they, I actually, I thought it was going to be a twist at the end, like a double twist, that, well, the first person, the first scene,
Yeah.
It wasn't either one of the people that we suspect it was, or ended up turning out to be. Like, when I first read it, I was thinking you were going to go back to the very first witness being it.
Oh.
But I didn't think that until, like, she all of a sudden came up with that being where they should go. Because I didn't make the connections that the cop did from what I saw. I'll leave that at that, because I don't make a lot of connections a lot of the times that I should. I think I'm just gonna touch up Snarl. Yeah, they're really close names. And
One's 2 syllables, one's 1 syllable.
they're close. I didn't say they were exact.
Okay.
They're really, like, I'm not saying Snarl and Snargy aren't fucking far off. They're not far off. They're not the same, but they're not far off. That's all I'm saying. That's it. But yeah, anyway, what I was talking about is I'm gonna go back and just darken and enough of the shape of, and then I think that's probably gonna be it.
Okay.
Because
Well, it's after 11.
Oh, well, I didn't even notice that, because I haven't looked up in a while.
I can just feel the medication losing its efficacy, so it's about time for a new hit. And I'd rather not use my inhaler. I'd rather use the machine, because the inhaler I don't think lasts as long. It's my personal opinion. And I can't take the machine with me, so I'd rather have the inhaler for when I'm not at home and the machine for when I am at home.
Yep, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, I don't think I'm all that far from done anyway. I just wanted to I want to make sure the face stands out before I stop. That's all. Everything else seems like it's pretty well set. You know, like he's pretty clear, right? She's well clear.
You know, I was kind of thinking the other day, looking at the, I don't know what you want to call it, the sketch, I guess, of 𝕻𝖎𝖎𝖎𝖓𝖌, and kind of thought, because it makes a relatively interesting V, like you could kind of make a V under his chin, go out, capture all of snarl, and go up across. But it'd be kind of a fun T-shirt. Like I'm kind of seeing those two at "Welcome to the Gored Pub." How can we serve? You know, how can we help you or something?
Then I would have to do Snargy. All right, well. Not sounding good. I don't like that. So I'm gonna end this with a bit right here. I'll screw it up. Ta-da! That, I think, is the underpainting. I think her eye is going to be the clearest part of her overall. He's going to be the clearest person, and then they're going to be clear just here. So your eye should move around.
Whoa! Whoa! What'd you do? Here I am.
This is not connected.
Oh. I was getting ready to.
I was just getting ready to bring it down so that you could see the detail on her eye.
Well, let me move you around a bit. And, yeah, that's a great looking eyeball.
All right. So,
try to focus it.
Oh, what's that?
Yeah, there you go. Oh, no, there you go.
Yeah, so if I let it focus on my hand, fingernails, whatever, and then pull them away, they'll autofocus.
Yeah.
That's what I was doing, autofocusing. So, yeah. Thank you, everyone who watched. Thank you for Allison and Jay for keeping us company. Thank you to Brett. Get out of here before you die. Yeah, so as he posted, thanks for liking, subscribing, following, thumbs upping, whatever you did. Good night. God bless. Much love.
Peace out.